So in cases where, Black families are split up more often statistically, this would have more to do with Black men than white men. This isn't even a white issue if you want to look at statistics. Same with white men being imprisoned. Black people are imprisoned more often in America than white people. In these cases, I think that it's more important to hear what Black MGTOW has to say than what white MGTOW has to say. Like BIGJXXX.
Greetings and salutations. This is BIGJXXX. Now, before I get down to the meat and the crux of this video, I want you to stay until the end of this video. I want you to stay to the end of this video because I'm going to dissect and deconstruct this argument. And then later in the last 3 minutes of this video, I'm going to start cooking. But let's sit here and start the origins of this conversation. Last week or so, a few days ago, I made a live stream called Men Don't Carry Babies. And I was addressing to in a manosphere nut job about who claimed that men should not be responsible for the children that they create. Want you to check that live stream out. Now, having said that, somebody decided to come on my comment section and post something. And I gotta say, I was going to let this go, right? I was going to let this issue go. But then when I kept reading the comment thread, I said I need to go deep and hard on the paint. So the person going to write to me and say, well, Big J, 30% of men on child support for kids that's not theirs. What's your take on it? That's what he said. Then I say, how about you stay on topic and produce some research to back up your claims? So when he made this comment, I said, who is you and why are you coming on the comment section that has nothing to do with you and has nothing to do with, and I'm not even talking about the topic that you're addressing. And I'm really getting tired of you Negroes coming on YouTube being so misinformed and spreading gossip and slandering the truth. But let me educate a lot of these people about the 30% of men paying child support. So we're going to go to a website called DNA Diagnostic Center, DDC, and there's an article that says 30% of men not the father. So let me go ahead and read some of what is said on here. 30% of men not the father. A quick online search gives a frighteningly alarming numbers. Many articles claim that many as 30% are unknowingly raising another man's child. This would mean that out of a class of 60 students, 20 of them are growing up calling the wrong man dad. Where did this 30% figure come from? And this is going to be shocking, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be shocking. This is the often misunderstood statistics provided by some fraternity test labs regarding the percentage fraternity tests with not a father result. Most fraternity test labs report that about 1/3 of their fraternity tests have a negative result. Of all the possible fathers who take a fraternity test, about 32% are not the biological father. But remember, this is 1/3 of the men who have a reason to take the fraternity test. Not 1/3 of all men. That is the difference. To determine a true non-fraternal rate, scientists usually turn to various studies of children with genetic disorders. In these studies, a large number of children are screened for genetic disorders like crystal fibrosis, and in which the children must inherit a copy of the defective gene from both parents to show the disease. And in this article, it produces another article from 2010 from the LA Times, in which biologist Professor Maureen Zirk said, when large numbers of families are surveyed for such research, a certain portion of fathers turn out not to have the gene that their children inherited, yet yielding non-maternal figures of 1% to 3.7%. Higher numbers, particularly often cited 10%, seem to come from more biased samples on more likely turn out to be an urban legend akin to cell phones being able to pop corn. So I did a little bit digging, ladies and gentlemen. I did a little bit more digging. So I went to another website, and it's called theconversation.com. And then there was an article by Rob Brooks, and the article read, "What are the chances that your dad isn't your father?" And let me read some of what he said in his article. And it's mighty telling. So people want to talk about where this 30% of men raising children, paying child support for children that are not of their own. Well, let's read this article. I'm gonna go to at least the mid section of this. So let's read a few things out here. And let me go by here. Simburn University psychologist Michael Glendon, who also appeared in the SBS program, which is a Australian organization, has Daryl researched that the origins of the popular belief that 10 to 30% of fatherhood is fake. He traced the source of the high estimate 30% to the transcript of a symposium held in 1972, in which British gynecologist Dr. Elliot Phillip mentioned estimate from a small sample of parents. This brief conversation took on a life of his own, despite the fact that Dr. Phillip never published the findings of his study. As a result, his precise tests and his population sample were never identified. Do we need to go to another source? Because I'm getting really tired of you people who don't research. Let's go to another article from the InsideStory.org, where by Michael Glendon, who wrote this, whose father he also said in his own article, in which he says, and let me find it. And I'm going to quote Mr. Glendon, Gilding, I should say. I did many similar interviews around this time, and they all followed the same course. Interviewers wanted to know the extent of the misinterpreted paternity, and I inadvertently said that the answer was unknown. Yet my interviewers inadvertently found other experts, quote unquote, who declared unequivocally that the misinterpreted paternity is widespread. Most of them said that 10% of the population was mistaken about the identity of their biological fathers, but sometimes they said that the figure is high as 20% or even 30% of the population. I was a little annoyed about this experience, so I set about reading every piece of available research on the subject, including the British study that allegedly showed a rate of 30%. I also kept track of new findings in the field and did my own research, and in the process I found quite a bit how an urban myth was born and transmitted around the world and helped create a new industry. A new industry of lies that a whole lot of you Negroes in the black manosphere, in this black space, and you manosphere nut jobs will put about. The stubborn figure of 30% comes from the published transcript of a symposium on the ethics of artificial insemination that was held nearly 40 years ago in 1972. The title of it was "We Blood Test Some Patients in town in South East England. Dr. Elliot Phillip told the symposium, and I found that 30% of husbands could not have been the fathers of their children. At this point, Dr. Phillip was interrupted by a judge who observed that surely the figure of 30% must be a minimal. The judge clearly understood that the blood test could identify exclude paternity if they could not identify establishing it. This is why experts in testing generally speak of exclusion rate rather than a non-paternal rate or a misattributed paternal rate. Dr. Phillip agreed that the figure was a minimum. He then explained how he came to doing the test. His team was screening some female patients about testing their husbands for their blood groups as a part of the study about the foundation of antibodies. And the results surprisingly showed that 30% of children could not have been fathered by the men whose blood group we analyzed. That's his quote. Another person asked, what about the number of people who were tested? Dr. Phillips replied, not large, between 200 and 300 women, but large enough to give us a real shock. Now, I'm not going to go more and more about this. The links are in the description box. So anyway, back to Mr. Bread Truth, the brutal, honest truth bread. You came to my channel. You try to offer me a challenge. But one thing you need to understand. You said, no, I don't want a problem with you. I'll just let you know your name is being used by a black woman. Well, let me help you out, right? First of all, you came on my channel. You came on my channel accusing me of pandering to the black woman. You came on my channel accusing me of being a simp. You came on my channel accusing me of being a vagina. You came on my channel accusing me of being anti-man and being a quote-unquote feminist. Look, let me help you out. Who's being led by the black woman? Me or you? Now, I know this woman put my name in the title of her video and put your name in the title of the same video. And you is the one that came to my channel. You the one that came on my channel. Trying to fight me. Trying to argue with me. While you looking silly with that cap on your head talking about F child support. So maybe the problem is not these women, the problem is y'all. You complain about child support that don't have sex. See, the problem is with y'all is y'all hang around with these so-called hood rats. Y'all want to argue with hood rats. You want to have y'all want to compete against these street hood heifers who don't have nothing else to talk about but to argue with you. You the one that give these women power. While y'all on YouTube with the whole shame, blame, and explain. Let's not have this again. Let's not have this argument again. Your argument has been deconstructed, and I have dissected your argument. Let's not have this conversation again. My name is BIGJXXX, and in your heart, you know that I'm right.
In your heart, you know he's right.